reminding, number one, they needed someone to explain to them what this was all about.
You wanted to make a stand, and I dare say you didn't mind the fact that many of the revolutionary forces in this country saluted you for the stand you made. But what about your audience? There are people across this country who tuned into your show to see one journalist who was prepared to ask the tough questions, and you walked away, and you betrayed your audience.
I'm not walking out, and I declared this on Twitter immediately after the statement. I'm not walking away from the square, from the field. I'm making a stand, and I'm coming back. I'm giving SCAF, the military, a chance to come up with some sort of a statement or whatever they, you know, can. But
well, hang on,
they
already have. I mean, first of all, I spoke the other day to the Information Minister, Osama Hakel. He said, look, Yosri Fouda isn't telling the truth. The military regime does not want to manipulate and control the media. We do want to see the flowering of free expression. And after I heard that, I saw that a member of the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces had actually called into the media and said, hang on, I acknowledge that Yosri Fouda is a skilled, efficient, professional media person. There's been an internal misunderstanding, but he must return to his natural place on air.
Steve, it's not only about me. I did this for the whole atmosphere to, you know, begin to change at least and appreciate why am I doing this. And, you know, with every due respect and appreciation for what General Itman said, but still remain many more questions than answers. But at the same time, I am not standing doing nothing. I am joining a few of my colleagues who believe in the freedom of press.
Well, I want to ask you about that, because I began this interview by asking you whether now you feel you were somewhat naive at the beginning of this revolutionary period. And naivety is a point that I come back to, because now you say you want to found a new independent television network, something Egypt's never seen before, not run by big businessmen, not run by the state, but truly
owned by the people.
Owned by the people. How can that possibly happen?
Everything starts with a dream, a little dream, and I hope that at least people in power realize that there is a third way. I don't want them to think that this is the end of it. I don't want them to think that we can take it lying down.
You talk with great passion about the new independent journalism you want to see in this country, but isn't it true that maybe nations get the journalism and the journalists they deserve? And right now, right here in Egypt, there is substantial evidence that many journalists are themselves stuck in an old way of thinking. And perhaps we saw that best at Egypt State TV, the way they reported the Maspira, the way they said that Copts were attacking the army, that 3 soldiers had been killed by violent Coptic crowds. But I just wonder whether you believe the state media in this country has to be completely dismantled after that recent incident and the way that State TV reported it. This is what one journalist inside state television, Dina Rasmi, this is what she said. She said she was ashamed now of working for the state media. She said that it had proven itself to be a slave for whoever rules Egypt. If that is the case, does it need to be utterly dismantled?
It's not our... Remember, this is a revolution. A revolution, I believe, did happen in Egypt, but there is one very crucial fact. The revolutionary forces were never allowed to rule. So if something goes wrong now, it's not the fault of the revolution. It's the fault of whoever, you know, was in control and still in control of the country. So I'm not going to throw the blame on my colleagues inside Maspiro. I believe that the vast majority of them are victims. They just can't do it. But I do blame some of them sometimes when they have the chance to make a stance and they choose not to. Okay, that's why. I mean, I'm not going to blame someone who has a family to raise, that they should come out and say, everybody does whatever they can do.
I just wonder whether you and other journalists, liberals, revolutionaries, maybe we can call them, who are the kinds of people who've been in Tahrir Square, who continue the protests, whether you are in some ways disconnected from ordinary Egyptians, maybe the fellaheen, the rural workers who populate this country, live on low wages, and who it seems now just want this country to return to stability,
Yes.
to peace, to normality. Do you think they really care about your stand for independent journalism?
I think they do, and they have already shown this since January. For a few days, and I know, yes, the cynical view is that this case is all meant so that the so-called silent majority hate the revolution and the rest of it. It just means that we need to be a little bit more patient and to explain to them what actually is taking place. And my whole program was actually all about this, trying to explain to people, give them the other narrative of
and
the story.
You really believe that the messages you were sending out, the sort of Egypt you believe in, connects with those Egyptians who perhaps do not have your education, your economic advantages, your social status? You think you can reach them?
You know, the revolution came raising 3 words: freedom, dignity, social justice. When I compare now after 5 months, what is it that we have achieved so far? Almost nothing.
Almost nothing. What a very bleak conclusion.
Well, I have to be pragmatic. Yes, we've gotten rid of Mubarak, Gamal Mubarak, their cronies, and we try to do, 1 or 2 things here and there. But I look at the country now, and I look at what happened in Tunisia, and I see more of what we call the fulul, the main core of the. I can't even call it ex-regime, but because the regime is still very much with us, and it's not all. It's not actually like what some people say now, that they are trying to reproduce the old regime. I think it's all about preserving the regime, because the regime never went away.
So you're saying there was no revolution?
No, there was a revolution. I'm so proud that the people, just to come out and express what you actually feel about your country, and you try to do something about it, and at a certain point of time you topple the head of the state, in itself is a big. And revolutions actually take years and years to happen, and I think more people now realize this, and more people are prepared to be a little bit more patient. I just want SCAF to realize this, that they are now in charge of a country in transition.
Let me ask you a personal question. You are in a very strange place right now. You are a journalist, a reporter, somebody who is very used to reporting other people's affairs, and suddenly you've become the story yourself. Many journalists would say that is a cardinal error, to turn yourself into the story. But that's sort of what you...
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Are you sure you don't? Maybe there's a little bit of ego here, because there are people only, 200, 300 yards from here who are continuing protests on Tahrir Square, and now there are banners saying, "We are with Yosri Fouda." Your name is on the banners.
Steve, okay, with all modesty, why should I do this if I'm already live on TV almost every day for 3 hours? I can feed my ego easily through my show. I've already reached a certain point in my career that I don't need it. Okay?
I just wonder, though, whether you've crossed a fundamental divide from being the observer, the reporter, to being the participant. And maybe, and I don't want to put an idea into your head, but maybe you have decided that the only way to really take part in this revolution in Egypt is actually to get inside the politics of this country, to play a political role.
No, I don't want for that to happen. I'm very much aware of the difference between journalism and activism, and I never crossed that line. I'm now defending my very profession. I am joining forces with other colleagues of mine, because we feel worried about our industry, about journalism, because we feel that journalism, free press, can play a crucial role in the future of Egypt. Because I do believe that information is power, and I know that anyone, especially in our part of the world, who's in power, would hate for the people to be empowered with information. And I want to go on with this struggle, to inform my people about what is actually happening, so that they can make up their own minds.
But a final thought. There is right now a real question about how much freedom of expression Egyptians have. For example, sitting in a military prison right now is a gentleman, young man, Michael Nabil, who was convicted and sentenced to 3 years of hard labor simply for something he wrote in a blog about the armed forces.
Yes.
Here today you've told me that the repressive tactics used by the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces in many ways are worse than what you lived under with Mubarak. You've run a very real risk here. How far are you prepared to take this stand of yours?
As far as it takes me, I'm not gonna, bow in front of any kind of pressure regarding something that I do not believe in.
Sometimes prepared to contemplate prison?
I don't think they will go as far as this. But if I have to, then I have to. The thing that I know for sure about myself, and it's not only about me here, again, over and over again, is that once you volunteer self-censorship, you begin losing certain things inside your conscience. Yes, you have to have what we call social responsibility, and you have to have this measure of the moment that your country is going through. And I have exercised that throughout my career, especially in the last 9 months. But at the same time, I am not going to only take the narrative of the army in regard to this incident or that incident. If I knew that there was another narrative, that it is my duty towards my country, including the military. This is the point, including the military, because I do believe that I help the military help themselves through knowing the other narrative. This is the whole point. This is why I believe it's not a zero-sum game. This is why I believe, please, do not waste your time and ours. The whole world is over this years and years ago. We belong to a different age now. I can launch my own channel from my bedroom. I can go back to London, or go to Doha, or to Dubai, or to Cyprus, or wherever, and still tackle the same issues, and maybe in a harsher way. I do not want for this to happen.
So, in a word, your message to them, to the military rulers of this country, is you're going nowhere.
I'm staying. This is my country, and I'm so proud that I was here at the right moment, in the right place, and I'm so proud and thankful that I had the chance to play a bit of a role in what's been happening. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. I will go back to my program, but things that have been happening over the last few months are not very promising. We deserve much better than this.
Yosri Fouda, thank you for being on HARDtalk.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.